What is up, everybody? Scape211 here, and today we got a bit of a different video. We are going to be doing some Bay reviews. Now, a couple weeks, actually it was before the holidays, so it was longer than a couple weeks, but a couple streams ago, I did some Bay reviews, and if you remember, that is when the new update had come out, and you could actually look at other players' bays. So it was a time where, you know, you could show your bay to people, and it was a time where I kind of looked at some bays and gave some advice on the live stream, and I got an overwhelming response of people that wanted me to look at their bay, and we spent about 2.5 to 3 hours, which was a longer stream for me at least, and we went through a whole bunch of bays, and I didn't even finish all of them, and I kept my list. So this is the list of the people I did not get to from that stream. Now I'm hoping that sometime in the future I may do another stream like this, but really right now I'm not taking requests of people's bays. I am just going over the list that I did in a recent community post to go over all of those bays that we missed last time. So without further ado, we're going to get into these and check them over. So the first bay I have is from Saeed, and actually this is for Adran, or I believe it's Adran, one of his friends. So we're going to go to that one. So I'm going to search based on the number, just like I did when we did the bay reviews before for each of these. And we're going to bring him up and see what we got here. So I got that right? Yeah, that looks right. All right. Now his name right now is Hellboy. I'm hoping this is the right person. I think I got the right person. So my numbers match up. Hopefully I recorded it right, because it doesn't say Adran, but hopefully that's the guy, and he's just changed his name since then. It's been a little while. So, all right. So first off, he's at about 1500 power, which is, you know, that mid-game-ish area, right? Somewhere between 1000 to 2000, I would say, is mid-game. And I mean, he's got a pretty solid build. Right away, we got the kill shot with the javelin racks. Pretty standard, solid build. Probably really good and really useful for you. Next to him, we got Guardian, another really solid bot. A lot of people use him, and with the missile rack 8s, which is solid as well. So both of these are great mid-tier, mid-game. Then we got the Panther over here. Again, another great bot. These are the 3 key bots I think should be in really everyone's bay, and he's got the Rocket Mortar 8s on there. Not bad. I don't use Rocket Mortars too much, but it's not a bad build. So let's move on over to here to Paragon. 16 energy, not bad, with a little bit of upgrading. I wouldn't do too much more with Paragon at this point. You probably want to focus on some of your other key bots, but I'm assuming he's like a backup. And with the pulse cannons, that's not too bad. Usually you'd put the sustain on a different type of bot, maybe on an Ares or a Juggernaut, but it looks like your Ares isn't quite high enough to put those on. So I understand. I'm assuming this is just a backup or another option bot if you need it. Otherwise, I would put something else on. He's a bit squishy. But then you also have Ares, which is your tanky bot, which is good to have a tank as an option, I think. And, you know, he's not a bad bot. I personally prefer Juggernaut slightly over him, but they're very similar. And Mr. Rex, solid build on him. I think he is in that Alpha Strike type of build, and this one fits it well. So things I would suggest, I don't see any long arms in your bay, and long arms are a great option to have. I know there's something that when you're earlier in the game and even into this mid-tier, people tend to shy away from it just because it has a bit of a learning curve versus some other weapons, but it's very powerful, very useful, and once you get used to it, you're really, I think, going to enjoy the damage that it puts out, and it also prepares you for endgame with the railgun. Like I've said, I think in previous videos, I would put dual long arm 8s on Panther, and then I would move your rocket mortars onto Paragon. Since Paragon is squishy, I don't think sustained damage is the best for him. And you know, that would probably be what I would do personally, or at the very least you could switch these two builds. The dual sustained damage I think works better on Panther than the rocket mortars. Panther is someone who can mix it up and get in battles a little bit because his barrier protects him so well. Paragon can't really handle close range combat, and he's too squishy, I think, for it, and probably would die too fast. So that would be my suggestion. I really think long arms is a good thing to try and invest in. Then after that, you would probably want to focus on your 3 core mechs there, your kill shot, your Guardian, and your Panther to upgrade. All right, good. Let's move on. I'm going to try to build on similar logic there for future ones and move here. So we got Joseph Gallagher next. 492323. See if we got that. This is a WAR-Spartan now. I'm hoping this is the right guy. Looks like we're friends, I think. Yeah. I'm assuming too these are your in-game, or I'm sorry, your names from YouTube that I have written down. So Joseph Gallagher, your in-game name is different. That makes sense. All right, so you're up to the higher end of what I would consider mid-tier. So that's good. Like your theming for your paint jobs, it's always fun, always a plus. I like doing that kind of stuff too. Kill shot, solid build, getting it to higher stars. You're working on them, which is great. Javelins probably still does well for you here, but you may want to move him to missile racks soon. I think I would. I think that's a solid option. You got Ares over here, and you're doing another trick that I have done, which I think is very helpful. Actually, sorry, let me say this too. I'm going to be declining anything for matches for right now, just because I'm working on this. And if you end up seeing this video later, or like, you know, catch some of this and you're like, why did you keep declining? It's because I'm working on a video. That happens sometimes. Sorry, but some people ask me, why did you decline my invite? It's because I'm working on a video. Sorry, but I'll try to play with those who would like to another time. Anyway, back into this. So your Ares build, solid build. I actually like when people do, not that I love it, but it helps for flexibility of builds, because a lot of people use Missile Racks 8, but not a lot of people use the Missile Rack 6. And this is a good way to combine the two, where you can get two builds of strong Missile Racks between here. You have it on your Guardian and your Ares. Solid option. I could appreciate that. And you also have, you know, your Juggernaut over here with the pulse cannons, which I also really like, and I prefer to the carbines, at least in a tanky guy like this, instead of the dual carbine 8s. You know, you're at a point too where you have really, I would say, all the key stuff, and now it's just the saving for the big high-end weapons and the high-end upgrades you want for your key mechs. Overall, pretty solid what you got here, I think. You even have an interesting, you know, with the stasis beam and long arm 8, that's a solid build as well. Great long range build. I personally like the missile rack on him, but you got him on other mechs, which are both great. So I can totally understand that. And I think you got a solid setup here overall. So yeah, very good, man. I like it. All right, I'm going to move on to the next one. We got Bina Patel. At least that's what your YouTube name is. Let's see what your in-game name is. 2261. Okay. Param26. I hope that's right. Okay. All right, so you are a little bit further along too with your overall power, which is nice. And looks like you have some of the normal stuff here too, which is awesome. You got the kill shot, which is great at 16 energy. And I know you have your missile racks on your Zephyr, which is great. Totally understand. You may want to eventually move it to kill shot, but I don't know. It's also great on Zephyr, so I get it. If you swap someone else out, I would put those missile racks on kill shot if you ever swap out Zephyr. But overall, yeah. So kill shot is looking good. It's a solid build. Your Panther is one that's using the rocket mortars. Again, not something I would normally do, but yeah, you have your long arm on your Guardian, you have your missile racks on your Zephyr, so I totally understand that. And if you like using the rocket mortars, is not a bad option for it for sure. Zephyr, this is probably the strongest build for Zephyr. Not anything you really need to change here. I sometimes am not sure if I end up using Zephyr. There are definitely maps where it's like I feel he's required or one of my best mechs performing in those maps. And then there are other maps where he doesn't see as much use and he's just a sideline optional mech. So when that happens, it's hard for me to leave my missile racks on him when I need it for someone else more important, at least in my opinion. Like, I'd rather see those missile racks on Killshot or on Panther or on Guardian, depending on the map and the usage and that kind of stuff. That's just me, but I think Zephyr is a great bot for it in the right conditions. That's like the ideal build for him. All right, and then we have Ares over here. Pretty stock build, so it's probably, I'm assuming, a backup mech to some of your other mechs. But he's got an awesome skin, so I can totally understand why he's in your bay. If I had that skin, I would probably be using him more too. Looks really sweet. You know, so if you plan on using him and keeping up, I would think you want to at least get him to 16 to put some heavier sustained damage on him. At 16 and 18, that's really where those tanky characters can shine. But, you know, if he's just for the backup and he's less important to you, that's fine. You probably want to focus on your 3 key mechs there, and possibly your Zephyr if you use him a lot. But overall, yeah, I mean, I think you're solid, heading in the right direction with stuff. Your Guardian build is also a great one, similar to the last one we were looking at on Joseph Gallagher's. You know, this type of build is really good. I like this one too. Like I said, I use Missile Rack sometimes over the long arm 8s, but this is solid as well. All right, we're gonna move on, and then we got Never Give Up, which is 325 4291. Search. Yep, Never Give Up. All right, I like it when the name matches with the name. It makes it easier. Okay. All right, so we got a little bit of mid-tier, or a little bit over mid-tier with this build too. So we got the kill shot with the javelins, which is interesting. This one we got the mix-up of the Javelin 6 and the Javelin... oh no, I'm sorry, this is both Javelin 6, I'm sorry. I was looking at the other stuff. So solid build, yep, and not much to say there. And you got your missile racks on the Zephyr, again, a solid build. If you use this regularly, definitely good to stay with. Panther at 20 energy, yep, running the long arm 8, long arm 10. This is a very solid build and one I would do at the same energy of 20, so I'm with you on that. The Guardian is a little bit funny to me in terms of the build, but I get it, because when you're at this point, you know, it's a hard spot to be in. You got your 16 energy and then you got your 20. So getting him up a little bit would help, where you could put on your other long arm 8, which is probably what your goal will be, given what you already have in the rest of your bay and setup. But yeah, this is just one of those spots where it's probably in between upgrades, so I get it. And using that Javelin Rack 4 is probably the best you got for a 4 energy stuff at that spot, so I get it. And then we got, of course, the Brick House over here, which solid build. This is not one that I have done much, because I would use the Javelins, but since you got your Javelins running on your other guys, I totally understand it, and the Missile Rack is not a bad choice here. It allows you to do the distance damage and then have some punch up close if somebody gets in your face. Curious to see how this works for you. I haven't used Brick House enough to know what are the best builds for him, per se, but this one, it seems like it's not too bad. So overall, I would say good, what you got here. You just, again, it's focusing on those core mechs. It looks like Guardian might be the first one for you to focus on to allow you to use your other long arm. I would say you probably want to upgrade your long arms if you intend to use them a little bit more. Yeah, that's just, I guess, my advice for that. Zephyr is good. Kill shot, yeah, that's good too. Again, he may want to use something else once he gets a little higher energy, but that's solid. So really, it's just upgrading your core mechs and then saving for those endgame weapons. A lot of people seem to be in that same spot, and I know it's tough just because you feel like it's a long road to get those endgame weapons and get your other stuff. I understand it. It feels like a long time, but you know, it can be worth it once you have the good options in place for stuff. So this one is Ramesh Girl, or at least that's the name I have on here. So I'm going to get into your hangar and take a look. All right, so here we got the about 1500 power, not bad. And we got the Zephyr right away, which is, again, solid build, pretty core to this. You got your kill shot, which is also a pretty solid build, pretty core to this. The Guardian build, a little bit different, but I can see what you're doing here, not bad. And given what you have for your other stuff, this is probably a solid option for him at the moment. You might want to do some sustained damage. I mean, if you happen to have the Pulse Cannon 8s or can upgrade them a little bit, that would be a good option on Guardian at this point in the game. Although I don't know, it depends on how much you've invested in the Pulse Cannon 8s. So if you haven't much, then they might be a little underpowered at about 1500, unless you put, you know, some work into them. And then if you do, it might take some work away from other core stuff. So that's always a difficult spot to be in. If you use Guardian a lot and you're happy with this build for now, then good on you. If you're not, it might be something to consider. Even if you just try the Pulse Cannon stock to see if they're better for you than this build is. But that's just a thought. Of course, obviously, when you get into other stuff like carbines and higher end builds, once you get up to 24 energy, that'll be better, but you know, you're mid-tier, so you got to get there a little bit. Yeah, standard build on Panther, good stuff. Probably needs to upgrade that long arm a bit, in the spot that you are in the game, but overall good. And it looks like you don't have, or at least not set up right now, that other base slot. I don't know if you have the other one, but if you don't go through your 4 bots, good on you. Don't worry about getting that 4th slot. Don't waste your resources for now. I think you're doing good. All right, good. Let's move on here. We got Night Gamer next. Night Gamer 78893. Ayush. Okay. 78893. Yep, looks like I got the right one. Okay. All right, so you look like you got a pretty stacked hangar. You're pretty well set, or at least some of the stuff does. So yeah, you got the 2500 power, so you're starting to lean into the end game, right? Getting all the end game stuff, and it looks like you got some of that already, which is great. So your kill shot is a solid build that you got here. I'm guessing that you're probably starting to grow out of this a little bit, and you're not sure what to do with kill shot at this point, which I totally understand. This is where you could do either some strong sustained builds with your carbines or your missile racks. Of course, they're on your Zephyr right now, and it really depends, like I said, on how much you use the Zephyr. If you use your Zephyr all the time, or especially like for key matches or certain tournaments, it makes a lot of sense to have this build. But if you're not, I would assume you are using your kill shot in almost every match. So I would venture to say it might be better to put something else on Zephyr, either carbines, the dual carbine 8s, or dual pulse cannon 8s, or even dual long arm 8s, although you have one of your long arms on your Panther right now. Just to get the missile racks on Killshot and start doing that. That's a really strong endgame build for Killshot, and if you're not using Zephyr as much at this point in the game, it's probably better to have them on Killshot, since you will use it a lot more, at least from my experience and what I see a lot of top level players do. But for certain maps, then you switch it on to Zephyr when you need that specific build for maps. Usually it's smaller maps with a lot of coverage where Zephyr can play peekaboo style, where you freeze somebody, you pop out, do all that damage with missile racks, then hide again, and get good kills while staying extremely safe and unexposed, you know, in that point. So that's usually the type of build that he is good for, and that's what he's best at, in my opinion. But not all maps work for that. So you want to be aware of when that map is going to come up. Obviously, that doesn't work in CPC, but usually in tournament is when you can control that a little bit better and when it counts. All right, so let's look at your other key ones. We got Panther in here at 24 energy. Yeah, solid build. I love this build. I use it all the time. I'm assuming your goal is to get a second copy of him, maybe second copy of Railgun, so you can use it on another one, or some other type of build for him. But yeah, this is good. You'll probably want to invest some more in your long arm as well, if this is an effective build for you. But yeah, seems pretty solid. Great one for Brick House too. I mean, this looks like it's quite damaging. One where you fire separately, but still, you know, probably, well, you might fire at the same time depending on if you need to alpha strike into somebody with this kind of build, but not bad. I've also tried Thermal Land 6. If yours is leveled decently, it's not bad with the Carbine 12 on Brick House too. It can do some pretty good damage. That might be another option, but since you're not really using your Mr. Rex 6 for anybody else, this is still pretty solid. I mean, if it works for you, I don't see a need to really change it. All right, then we got your Ares, which is at 16 energy, so you got a Carbine 10 and Thermal Land 6. So this is similar philosophy to what I was just talking about with the Brick House. So depending on how this works for you, if it works well, you could try the other build that I was saying on Brick House. If not, or if this guy just works as backup, I understand. But ultimately, I think you want to be focusing on your kill shot, your Panther, and then deciding on builds between these two, depending on the map. I don't see a Guardian in here. I don't know if you use Guardian, and if you find Zephyr better than Guardian, I can understand that. I would think, honestly, out of the options, I would rather have a Zephyr and a Guardian than the Ares. Like, if you could get Guardian or invest more in Guardian, I would take out Ares and put him in here, or Brick House, depending on which tank you use more. I just find that I'd rather have a Guardian or a Zephyr before I use Juggernaut, Ares, or Brick House in most conditions. So that's why I say that, and why I think that might be a good thing to consider. So yeah, just a thought. If you've put some time into him, he would be a good one to put in there. All right. Next we got Satish, or Satish. I'm not sure how to say that. Sorry. Apologize. 325 4291. Oh, This is Never Give Up again. Is this the same person? Do we get the same one? Oh, it is the same one. All right, well, then we're going to move along because that's the same number. I didn't even look at it, but the numbers were the same. All right, let's move on to Shushmita B. I think I got that right. So 51023558. Okay, Hydra 911. Nice. Okay. Let's look at your hangar here. All right, so you're someone who is still in the early game, which is cool. That's great. I'm glad that you're still around. I'm hoping you're still around and enjoying the game. I know it's been a little while since I did this video, but yeah, you got the early game builds and stuff going on. That's great. All right, so we'll start right in the middle here with Panther. So your Panther is on the stock setup. This is the setup I would normally use for Panther. So totally understand it. I'm totally with you on this. You may want to upgrade your RPGs a little, maybe not too intensely, but some. You know, RPG 6 this early in the game will get you through to a few, you know, maybe up into 1,000 to 12 to 1,500 ish power and still be relevant in my mind at that point. So not bad to invest in maybe 2 to 3 stars into. But you probably don't want to do too much more than that. You want to save your other resources for other stuff, or even upgrading your Panther itself. Definitely a worthy bot to invest into. Then we also have Killshot over here, which is the one you start with, and you got the shotguns on it. Now, probably at this point in the game, shotguns are working really well for you, which I can totally understand, but they're going to start to fall off pretty quickly as you get some other weapons. And I would say that, you know, one of the things you really want to do with Killshot pretty early is to get him up to 3 stars and then get the Javelin 6s. They're a little bit pricey early game because they're about 600, no, 6, I don't know if it's 625 or 675, but about that many A coins. So it's a good chunk of A coins next to the fact that you're upgrading Killshot. But that build is like one of the best early game builds I have used and I have seen. It does really well in just about any situation, aside from maps that have a lot of overhang. That would be the only time it falters, but in a lot of other instances, it's like your star build for that early in the game. Next to that would be the Panther build that you already have. So those two are probably the core mechs you use, and then sometimes you dip into either the Juggernaut or the Paragon. Now, Paragon is probably at a point in the game where he still has some relevance, but is going to fall off soon. So the build you have for him now, kind of an opposing build where you got your long range and then you got the short range, probably just to cover that close range distance. I can understand that. I would think, though, for him, it might be better to just stick with one or the other. Personally, for me, I would take off the shotgun 2 and put a thermal lance 2, just so that you can help get better damage for the long range with the long arm. And then he specializes in that. This type of flexible build, I understand I like flexible builds, but they got to be damaging enough to really be effective. And having something close up that's only 2 energy is probably not going to do a whole lot for you in any situation in the game. So, but I understand this may be a backup bot, so probably not the heavy focus. But just my thought on that. And then you got your Juggernaut over here, who's at 8 energy, and the Pulse Cannon 4s. You know, for this early in the game, I'm not sure how well the Pulse Cannons are working for you. They're probably decent, although, you know, you're going to want to upgrade, if you continue using your Juggernaut, to at least 12, probably to 16 to start getting some better weapons on him. And then your Pulse Cannon 4s are going to fall off pretty quickly. Once you get him to 12, the RPG 6 would be good on him, because I would think potentially you're going to want your Panther to be at 16 and then put either dual long arm 8s or dual missile racks on him. So I'm assuming that's where you are at this point in the game. I think you want to get to a point where you can focus on upgrading a bot and getting a key weapon. So for you, that is either upgrading Panther to 3 stars while getting either the long arms or the missile rack 8s. Both of those are good weapons and a good choice for him, but you want to try to get both of those, like the resources, to do both at the same time. And same thing I would say for Killshot. You'd want to get him up to 3 stars and get those Javelin 6s I talked about, but you're going to want to try to do both at the same time. So you'll need the resources for the upgrade on the bot and then to purchase the key weapon. So I hope that helps, but those are like the key steps I would think for you out of these two that you would want to focus on now to really push yourself up into the next bracket of gaming for this game to get up into like 1000-ish power and be prepared for it. Yeah, all right, so let's move on. See, this is why it took so long. I mean, hard to get through these and move along quickly. I'm terrible at this. I like to give advice, and I trying to make it quick, but probably talking too much. So yeah, we gotta keep moving on. Okay, Vox. Yeah, I mean, you look like you got a lot of power here. So you're at 2400 power. Good, very, very good. And you're doing the similar kind of mix it up between these two that I was talking about. I didn't say that before, but a lot of people use these two bots and the Mr. X with them. Hoping this is working out well for you. This is something, like I said, I've suggested to other people at times and can be very effective. It loses a little bit of power, but I think in the case of each of these bots, just given that there's a lot of reliance on either the dash for the kill shot or the ability to just free someone and then, you know, slink away while they can't get you, you don't lose a whole lot from that power loss because you still have little exposure. So I think in the case of these two bots, this can work really well for the mixing up of the weapons that you got on them. And then you got the solid Panther build. I'm with you on this one. You've upgraded your long arm a little bit too. That's great. Again, got a killer build for the Ares, so it makes sense to have those javelin racks on him. This is a decent build for Ares, and I've talked about it before. Yeah, it's not a bad one at 12 energy, and probably one I would put in his best loadouts for when he's at 12 energy. So solid option here for him. All of those are great bots. And then we got Brickhouse, and this one is probably playing more of the support role and then allowing friends to get the benefit of that ability that he has, just because these weapons aren't super damaging, but you know, with his ability and with friends, it can be very effective for, you know, combined attacks. So I can understand this build. Again, I'm not seeing the Guardian on this one, so that might make sense for one of these two bots, either the Ares or the Brickhouse. But you know, the builds that you have for those guys aren't bad, so if you use them a lot and they're very effective for you, I can understand keeping them in. I'm assuming you probably want to be focusing on Killshot and Panther a little bit more, maybe to make dual copies, but overall, yeah, I think you got solid stuff here, so good stuff to work with. You got a lot of the key stuff too. All right, we got Reshma is next. 380. Man, I'm so glad my wife wrote these out for me, because if I was trying to read my own handwriting for these, I would have screwed it up. All right. kingVarshith. Varashith, right? Am I saying it? Wait, do I have the right? 380 4872. Yeah, just making sure I got the numbers right. Okay. All right, another guy with high Hangar power. Great. All right, so we start off here with the Panther. Great build. This is one that I love too. I've used this one a lot, and I swap this regularly with my railgun build. So do I put on the missile rack with it, or do I put on the long arm 8? And it's something that I constantly flip-flop off on. It's usually dependent on what else I need to use my missile racks on, but this is a solid one for sure. Then we got the standard kill shot package here, which is good. Looks like you got yours maxed all the way, which is great. So I was going to say your javelin racks probably need a little bit of work to really be effective, but I understand that this is your second kill shot, so I'm sure that's probably something you're working on or considering what to put on him next. This may be the time where you start focusing on getting your Carbine 8 and Carbine 10. You have a lot of other key stuff already, so that might be the time to, this might be a good time to focus on it, so you can maximize some builds on some of these guys here. This isn't a bad build for the kill shot here. This is not one I use too often, but I've seen other people use it. I personally like the bursty damage of the missile racks, just because you want to do a lot of damage or enough damage for your dash to finish somebody off to kill a target fast. Otherwise, you're taking more sustained damage, and kill shot is not a really beefy mech. So, you know, this guy isn't exactly a glass cannon per se, but he kind of falls in a similar variant to that, where he's not going to take a ton of damage. So this is why a lot of people run either something that keeps them less exposed, like javelin racks, or the dual missile rack 8s, because it just allows them to damage quickly before anyone can respond. So, you know, this build can work. just because the Carbine 12 is pretty high-end sustained damage, but it is not, I would say, I think, as effective as dual missile racks, at least in my opinion, but still not a bad build. We got the Guardian build over here. Yeah, 20 energy, definitely a solid setup. You know, this is hard for some people. Like a past one we saw, somebody had a 16 energy weapon on there, the Stasis Beam 16. So, you know, this is at least a better mix of the two builds. I think a 12 and an 8 is nice. So I think this is solid, works well for Guardian, especially at this stage. I'm assuming that your end is to try and get him to 24 to do something dual. Yeah, this is solid for now. I don't, again, see anybody using the long arms on here, so that might be something that will help you to free up some space. I mean, if you can get the long arms and then put that on, like, your Guardian and your Panther builds, it might free it up for one of your kill shots. That might be something that I think would be a good option for you to do. Then it looks like you got the optional build of the Cheetah over here. Cheetah is one I don't see often, but that's nice to have. I'm sure he plays the kind of alt role if you have the right map and the right setup where he can play that support duty role, which I understand. Usually this last slot is that flexible slot, right? You have a support guy, you might have a tank here, you might have another type of crowd control like Zephyr. I see a lot of people mix it up and you know, in this last slot. So if Cheetah works well for you, that can be good here. Personally, for me, I don't think he does enough on the battlefield to justify it. I'd rather put a tank or a Zephyr in here, or once I get dual copies of other mechs, you'd probably put that in there, but totally understandable for right now. Alright, so let's move it on. So that was Reshma. Shantano is our next one. 2, 6, 1. 14. Yep, okay, got it. Statey Ruler 2. Alright, so we got a mid-tier type here, which is good. Solid stuff. Right away we start with the Zephyr. Solid build, not much to say about this. Great build. We got this set up for the Guardian, which is good too. I really like this one. Although I prefer the long arms a little bit more on Panther, and then something else on Guardian, but you got the missile racks on Zephyr. Maybe pulse cannons could be another option here that could work well, but if this works really well for you, keep it. I mean, that's a solid one for this kind of mid-tier angle. I'm assuming at this point too, though, you're starting to get to a point where power levels, your long arm 8s are underperforming a little because they're still at 2 stars in the stock. You might need to upgrade these another star or two just to start seeing a little bit more strength and value out of them. But I struggled with that for a while too. Mine were under-leveled for a bit, so I get it. All right, then we got our Panther at the 20 energy. Not a bad build for 20 energy because you're kind of in that in-between stage of stuff. I would say if you end up doing something different for Guardian, like the dual Pulse Cannon 8s, if those are decently leveled for you, you could do a long arm 8, long arm 10 on Panther quite well at this point. But that's just an option if that works. All right, so your kill shot, surprisingly, is rocking the RPG 6s here. That's not bad, depending on how well that works for you. For me, between the two on the end here, I would be swapping the weapons on these builds. Juggernaut is a guy that is more about mixing it up, getting in there, you know, letting his shield take some damage, and RPGs, in my opinion, because they have line of sight, are better for that, whereas the Javelin Racks are about getting in a specific position and being able to hit your enemy with least exposure, and because kill shot is so quick, it's easy for him to do that, and if anyone gets in his face, you can dash at them. So I think, you know, between these two, I would swap those builds, but that would be one of my major things for there. Otherwise, you know, overall, I think you're doing well. I would say this might be, you know, another possible thought where I was saying the pulse cannons. But then after that, it's, you know, once you maybe swap out just a couple minor things, it's about saving to upgrade for those major upgrades on your main mechs, and then saving for those high-end weapons. So you're getting close to where you're going to be in that area for high-end weapons after you get some mechs ready for them. All right. So that was Shantano. Next we got, I don't even know if I can say that one name, I'm sorry, Patil? I'm going to say the last name because I don't know if I can say the first name, I'm sorry. 8986. Champion 09. Did I have the right one? 4318986. Yep, okay. Got the right one here. All right, so you're just under 1,000 power. You are almost at, you know, the edge of the mid game, which is good. That's good. All right, so right now you got the kill shot, which is a solid mech, of course. Great one to have. And you got the Missile Rack 6s on there, which is not a bad weapon. I'm curious to see how this does for you. Usually this early in the game, people don't get the Missile Rack 6s this early. Not that that's a bad thing. I just think other people haven't gotten this at this stage. So that's actually to your benefit, I think. To me, I would personally, you got your Ares right here that has the Javelin Rack 6. I would switch these two weapon sets personally, depending on how well this does for you. I know the Missile Rack is more about doing that damage instantly, but because the firing speed of the Missile Rack 6 is slower, you take a little bit more damage, at least in retaliation, than I would want for a kill shot. The Missile Rack 8 travel speed of the missiles is much quicker, so I think, you know, trying to do dual Missile Rack 6 on it is not quite as effective as doing the Javelin Racks, especially this early in the game. Your Javelin Rack 6s are really strong. Even though they're good on Ares, I think they're better on kill shot, and I think the dual Missile Rack 6 will do better on Ares with his shield, to allow him to, you know, deal with that slower missile speed well while not taking much damage, just because he's so tanky. And similar to over here, I would... oh, okay, I see. All right, so you got your Panther with the Pulse Cannon 6s. Not a bad weapon as a starting package when you get it, but I think it tends to fall off just because sustained damage at 6 is not going to do a whole lot for you later on. So it's not a weapon I would invest too much in. But the RPGs that you have on your Paragon are a decent weapon, and I've upgraded a couple stars into them, and they're not bad. It's tough. You're at that point where you're almost mid-game, and you're probably going to start to be able to get things like Guardian and Missile Rack 8s and Pulse Cannon 8s, and then even into more high-end mechs and stuff, all the epics and prototypes. So you're probably past a point where I would say investing too much in the RPG 6, because you already got your Pulse Cannon 6 on this guy. I'm assuming Paragon just ends up being, you know, your later mech if you need to get into it. But yeah, I get it. These other ones are good. These two are probably your core guys to not only focus on, but use all the time. And then Ares would be your tank if you need it. But I would swap these two weapons and then work on saving up for some of those other key mechs and weapons like Guardian and Missile Rack 8. Those are going to be the game changer mechs for you when you get into that mid tier. Or the game changing purchases, I should say, because one of them was a mech and one of them was a weapon. All right. Then we got Jeff Killer 1, who I think was trying to invite me to a match earlier. So sorry I can't do a match, but I'm checking out your bay. All right, Jeff Killer 1. Here we go. All right, so you are still early game as well. You know, that makes a lot of sense. I know we played a couple matches, but you're also getting close to being in that mid tier. And you actually got Guardian, which is great. Good on you. Very good mech to have. And I see you got the Missile Rack 6s on him, which is not bad for right now. Given his ability, allows you to do that. Obviously, you're not utilizing all of his energy, but I'm sure you probably don't have all the weapons you would want for it yet either. So I can understand that. So let's, talk about some of these other mechs, and then we'll come back to that, I think. So your kill shot right now is using your Pulse Cannon 4s, which I can understand. I personally would be using... I would say since you have the Javelin Rack 4s, I would put those on your kill shot and then put the Pulse Cannon 4s on Ares. Even though Ares, again, has a 12 energy and can use a little bit more, that might be better for it. Yeah, I mean, for me, what I would do in your situation too, I don't see the RPG 6s in here. I like those when you're in the 12 energy slot. They work quite well. But if yours are at 1 star, again, just like the last one, probably not worth investing in right now, because you're getting to that point where you're close to getting Pulse Cannon 8s and getting Missile Rack 8s, and then upgrading your Panther another star and being able to put that stuff on Guardian. But I would, at the very least, swap the Javelin Rack 4s and the pulse cannons between these two mechs. And then I would also try to focus on getting the kill shot up to 12 and then get those javelin rack 6s. Those to me are the better option to have on kill shot, and really that sweet spot for like early to mid game. It will carry you through pretty well there. So yeah, those are a couple things I would do. You wanna try to get a couple key weapons, namely the javelin rack 6 and the missile rack 8. And then after you get some of those, you can focus on upgrading a few things. I would also say you don't have your long arms in the mix yet, but that's another one I think you really will want to invest in, probably putting it on Panther once you are able to upgrade him one more star. Dual long arm 8s on him is really good to use and get used to and learn and be good with for this game, in my opinion. And it frees up some other weapon sets for other mechs. So it's a solid weapon to have in your arsenal for sure. So yeah, just some of those key weapons. You got some key mechs and other stuff, just some key weapons. Those three, I would say. Then we got Dark Turbo here. Chichiro Dark Turbo. 2010888. Hopefully he sees this. I'm not sure if he will now. But yeah, let's see how he's doing. So he's just at that at the top, I would say top end of mid tier, close into the late game, right? So yeah, and he's got a pretty good bay set up here. So he's got the brick house working that, and he's got the stasis beam 16 thermal lance too. Interesting. I would say that probably works better for him than like the 12 and the 6, like some people do, unless their thermal lance is really beefed up. But yeah, not bad. This is again that kind of support role like some other people had, so I get it. We'll move over to Panther. Yeah, the long arm 8, long arm 10, solid build. You probably at your point, if you're going to continue to use these weapons, need to upgrade them a little bit more, a star or two, to go into some of the higher level tiers. But yeah, not bad at all. Very good. Keep working on him. And kill shot, yeah, with the railgun. Railgun is a solid weapon on him. A lot of fun. I will say it's one that I like to use on other mechs that have a sidearm with it, just for helping to knock down shields. That's the thing I don't love it on kill shot for long term. It's nice, you know, early game when you can cap fonts like in CPC and take down other smaller mechs that would be in your way. Great for that, but after you kind of get rid of that initial cycle of enemies, you start seeing juggernauts and Ares, especially if you're playing against the AI. And when that happens, this is going to be much harder to punch through with just this single railgun. So maybe some other builds, but I mean, you know, it's not a bad one. I've used it before too. Very nice for the very early game in CPC. Zephyr build is strong. Just like other people have done, if you are using these two mechs, if you have the missile rack 6, maybe one of each on it. Missile rack 6-8 combo between these two mechs might not be bad. I've seen it done, and it works pretty well. The Guardian setup you got is a pretty stock one. At this point in the game, it's probably starting to show its age a little bit for you. So you're probably going to want to either beef up your pulse cannons or put something else on him that's going to be pretty strong, like dual long arms. But since you already got the long arm stuff on Panther, this is probably the best you got for him. But you're in a point where, you know, it's the mixture of focusing on upgrading guys and then trying to get some of those other endgame weapons. You already have some of them, which is great, but the Carbine family would probably be the next one that you want to look at. If you're going to use someone who's going to be 18 energy, you're going to want to do the Carbine 810 type of builds, and then some of the higher end stuff, you want the dual carbines. At least in my opinion, I think if you're going to do that, it works really well. So, you know, that would be a great one for Guardian, but that's a long-term type of thing. So, let's see how that goal goes. But, you know, Brick House would be one that would be the 810 if you want to do that. Nightmare really wants to play. Sorry, buddy. All right, we're going to move on. This is our last one. And sorry, this has probably been a long video. Yeah, it is pretty long, but a lot of people wanted to do this and wanted to see the rest of these, so I wanted to make sure I got all these in. So, but the last one we got here is Shantanu Pixit, I think it is. 261. Oops. 4243. What? Yeah. Is that the same one we had before? Oh, it is. Okay. So that's one we already did. All right. But I guess that's it. All right. I'm sorry that was probably a long video for some of you who probably don't like to see that long of a video. Maybe it was helpful and educational for some. But I hope for those of you that we got to see your bay, I hope you're happy with that assessment. Of course, if you have other questions, you can leave them below, or other things you want to talk about or ask, feel free to. I would say, though, please don't leave a request to do your bay for this video. I don't plan on doing other long-form videos like this, but I may do something like this in a stream where I can interact with you a little bit more if you have questions specific to your bay. But this is just something I wanted to do for some of those that I missed in the past. So I hope that was helpful to all of you guys. And as I said, if you have other questions, feel free to leave them below. But we will see you out there on the battlefield.